So if you've ever wondered how an elite level cinema is actually designed and built, but today we're going to go through some of the design concepts that we use with our ODYSSEY design program, which really digs in and aims to uncover every performance factor possible while having the right function, flow of the room, and then being mindful to a nice interior design for a room that you'll be really truly proud of. So we'll go through a few slides. This isn't everything, but it gives you some insights to some of the design detail and the usage of the drawings that allows us to actually build projects first time right as well. So here's some other projects we've done recently, some featuring in magazines, some actually award-winning projects, which have gone through this same process. So with the cinema room, really the square meterage, the space is the biggest asset you've got. Having a 4x5 meter room at home has already cost you $50,000 to $100,000 just sitting there, just the space. So we're really mindful of the space, and there's a lot of elements that are trying to squeeze in there, which is why we're down to the millimeter, and CAD drawing helps us get there. So of course it's all around the seats. It's who is going to use the room and where are they best situated in the room, so then they have the immersion and the envelopment of the sound and picture around the seating. This is the most important aspect. Now, if you've got a big family, of course you need more seats. For many people it's a private cinema, and you may find that really two is 90% of the time going to be used, occasionally another few seats, and occasionally after that maybe a sporting event, things like that. So we really do focus first on how many seats are most important. It's what we call the primary seating, and then we look at secondary seating. If you're entertaining, such as this room example, we've actually got some room for bar stools at the back, rather than a fully custom built riser, expensive motorized lounges that hardly ever get used. Rather, the bar stools are working quite nicely. Beanbags are another great way of getting more seats in, particularly for the kids and kids sleepovers. Whole lot of fun. So it's all about the seats. Just like, say, a Ferrari, they're going to go, right, what do we need here? 2 seats. Right, where's the engine got to go? Mid-mounted. It's all about performance. So this is really the approach we look at. It's a bit like building that 2-door sports car, but if need be, we're going to have to factor in extra seats. Okay, so here's some angles and some orientation of how this room could work, and getting a feel for where some of the key acoustic reflections are going to occur down the room. So then we can start to understand where do we need to put acoustic devices, then where maybe the door is best. So we're lucky to get into this project early, where the room has not been built. In fact, they haven't gone to pre-start. It's a planning stage. So we get to dictate where the door's best to come into the room. So it's not opening into the front stage, a speaker, a wide speaker, halfway into an acoustic reflection point. We avoid all of that by planning early. So putting the seats into a good spot for the key angles is one thing, and out the way of the doors another. But another big thing happens in a room, and that is the bass response. So how does the bass power up the room? How does that feel, and how is that experienced in the seat? Well, the bass waves are pretty big, and even a 10 by 8 meter room is going to have the bass waves bounce around and be really chaotic. So what can happen is we can have cancellation points, and we can have some really big peaks. So we want to smooth, moderate, balanced. I say moderate, that is all the bass energy is of equal power. We don't have a dominant or a cancellation point. So a little bit of analysis here shows that we've actually got what we want is a nice straight line to about here, and then we want it to roll off. Now this is a little bit pointy down here, but that's not too bad. We can fix that up, and it's quite narrow. What we don't want is a big valley of no energy. So a little bit of bass analysis makes us understand, well, where are the seats best lengthwise in the room, and where are the subwoofers best positioned in the room? Because where the subs go, they'll push and pull against each other. A bit like a wall will push the sound. So really, bass is like 30-40% of the experience. So we need great bass, so this bass analysis is important.
So backing up a bit, so we've got, okay, we know where the seats are best because the bass is going to be great. We then go, okay, where's the right geometry of all the speakers in the room? And I say all of the speakers, that's right. We've gone from 5.1 in the 90s, which was 6 speakers in total, 5 around the room and a subwoofer, through to systems often running 11, 13, 15 or so speakers in the room is very common, even for a one-row cinema. So the key thing here is actually making sure that the speakers have separation. The key here is the geometry of the speaker. As each speaker projects sounds in a different angle to the listener, that's how we get that beautiful, smoother surround sound. This is why a soundbar, doesn't actually work that great, although, hey, don't get me wrong, the technology is amazing, and I'll prefer a great soundbar in my living room than the TV speakers, but it's not real surround sound because the sound's really coming from one location. It's not directed around the room. So here's some analysis on the angles, and this really gives us a chance to get a best feel on where to put all of the speakers. You're going to invest a lot into speakers, the amplification, the processing, the cabling, the labor, the install. Getting them in the optimized location makes a lot of sense. All right, so the other aspect here with the speakers is how do they actually disperse sound? So we want the energy of the speaker to cover the whole audience. Now, maybe the secondary row seating might miss out on this focus, but the primary row seating absolutely does. So here we've got the dispersion characteristics of the surround and the effects channels, and you can see that the main seating here is all within that energy power range. Really, really important. Now, this is true for the horizontal. It's also true actually for the vertical. So on the right here, we are not seeing the dispersion as such, but we do know that if we go too high up from a vertically orientated speaker, then we end up in a pretty poor sound field. We have a lot of phase or cancellation issues in the speaker. So we do need to factor that in and keep that tight, which we have done with this plan. It's on another slide. And you'll see here that the front speakers are indeed projecting through the screen, left, center, right, and we've got a little bit of angle down, and we've got a little bit of toe in as well. So although not pictured here, the dispersion is absolutely focused on that primary row of seating. And of course the center channel, which ties in all of the action on the screen, that center channel represents the sound of the dialogue, of the action on the screen, and it's sitting right up there, mid position of the screen. The whole illusion of it being real just really climbs. Just that concept alone, even if it's not the craziest high-end speaker in the world, having that speaker there adds to the illusion, adds to the believability of the whole story, and that's what makes a really amazing cinema truly, truly great, because you just mesmerize. Okay. You'll see here as well, we've actually got a garage behind this room, so we've got a projector mounted in the garage that's in a special custom box to make sure we've got good airflow. We've created a portal system. We've extended the throw distance of a real cinema design projector. Now, a lot of the dedicated cinema projectors don't have the hugest lenses, so we do need some distance, but they are very precise lenses, but we do need some distance to be able to get the nice big CinemaScope screen. All right. So what have we learned? We've learned seating position, we've learned speaker position, and we start to plan and plot out where that needs to be. Both the ceiling, so the Atmos speakers, and then the base layer speakers, and we have drawn in some of the acoustic devices that we're looking for in this room as well. With this information, we can give the client a wiring plan, so the builder and the electrical contractors can plan in the conduits and the electrical elements for the room. And you'll see here, this is a little bit better perspective now of the acoustical elements going in the room. So we've got critical acoustic control, which is a range of
absorbing the sound, taking the sound away. We want to reflect sound in places so it's lively, but we also want to diffuse the sound, which is to break up the sound so it maintains energy in the room, but it's not a huge distraction to the listener. So ideally, we want that strategically placed. Now this means that the ideal place for the acoustics might end up halfway over a door. Well, in this case, we've managed to move the door, so that's not a problem. And also, in this case, we do have some windows, those pesky things called windows, which often happen in theatre rooms, and the councils will demand that windows are in a room if it's on an external wall. So there's a few ways where we manage that, though in this case, we're prioritizing the acoustics. So if the acoustics need to go a little bit over the window frame, so be it. The window can still work. And of course, we'll look at some trim options later to actually make this look pretty, because it's looking pretty chaotic at the moment. Fantastic acoustically, but visually not so special. So let's look at the trim. So here we're starting to layer in the trim elements. This client's looking for some cabinetry, some library, big disc collector, some trim around the screen, make it look super flush. The foyer, I'm not sure if that was featured on previous pages, but this has a beautiful candy bar foyer on the way in. We've put a few ideas in for them there as well, though the client's DIYing some of that stuff. And of course, we get to see some elevations on where and how that trim will layer over the room and what sort of bulkheads or supporting constructions required to actually make this trim work. So here's one of the examples of this very room with what we call the imperial concept, which is this beautiful drapery all around the room. Now, what's important with this concept is the drapery is actually visually solid enough so we can see the drapery and not the devices, the cables, the speakers behind, though also it's acoustically transparent or see-through enough for the sound to go through. So obviously the speaker sound gets to the audience and the sound vibrating, reflecting and reverberating around the room will get through the curtain shear and to those acoustic devices so they can function and absorb or scatter or reflect the sound as we've designed. We've got a few ceiling panels here, and every time there's a shadow edge formed, there's a great opportunity for some lighting. So of course some lighting adds an amazing going out to the movies feeling. The moment you walk through the door into your cinema room, it should be captivating you and bringing you into another world, and you put the rest of the world, you leave that at the door. So there's a pretty cool function to dressing up the room just for that psychology element. It resets your mind, it sort of transcends your current mood and sets you up for the story. Super important. Here's another concept that this will also support this room. It's what we call the Tron. And here we've got a combination of stretched fabrics and also the sheer fabrics through the room. And it allows us to actually put lighting behind the stretched fabric. So these white beams here are actually, when those lights are turned off, they disappear. So there's actually no distraction of white lighting diffusing on things in the room. The room's actually super dark, super natural, or neutral, sorry, when the lights are off, which means the big screen is the only focus. But then you add the lighting and pop, you've got this beautiful elegance and a little bit of tech in the room as well. Very modern design, a little bit sci-fi, hence the Tron concept. And I can't wait to see some other renders of this room as we add some color to this as well. So that is a wrap from me. That's a little bit of an exploration and deep dive into a current project and the ways we look into the highest performance we can for the cinema while being mindful to how we can make the room look fantastic as well. So if that was inspirational, you'd like more education on cinema, check out our YouTube, our Facebook, check out our website, and yes, design and consultation services are available, so reach out to the team, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you soon. I'm Scott Rogan, founder and lead designer of Rogue Home Cinema, and remember, with a real cinema at home on any day, reality can go rogue. Thank you.